Hi, bit of an odd one today. We're going to try and recover some data from this water-damaged HP laptop that belongs to my friend Debs and refuses to turn on. I don't normally do this kind of work, but the data is very important to her, and professional data recovery companies charge an arm and a leg, so I said I'd give it a go. I like the challenge of doing things as cheaply as possible, so let's see if we can do a lazy budget data recovery. This approach could also potentially be used on smartphones and tablets. Now, with normal laptops, you just remove the hard drive and connect it to another computer, but infuriatingly, this particular laptop has the storage soldered directly to the motherboard in a tiny chip called the eMMC. This is a common approach in smartphones and tablets, but to save space and cost, it looks like laptops are starting to appear with this setup as well. Now, electrically speaking, eMMC chips are more or less identical to standard consumer-grade SD cards, so they can be read by any device that has an SD card slot. However, obviously we can't just plug it straight into an SD card reader since it's in a completely different package. Professional data recovery companies will often remove the chip entirely and either solder tiny wires to it or place it in an extremely expensive data recovery device with an eMMC socket. Even these sockets by themselves cost hundreds of pounds, which is prohibitively expensive. I've neither the skill nor the budget to attempt either of these approaches, so I decided to investigate if the eMMC data signals connect to anywhere more accessible than the motherboard. Figuring out which of the thousands of potential points on the motherboard connect to the eMMC would be nigh on impossible without some sort of documentation. Of course, HP don't make this available, but leaked documents often make their way to the internet via dubious Eastern European websites. I was able to purchase the schematic and board layout files for this particular motherboard for a very reasonable 5 Bulgarian lev. Schematics are in PDF form, but the board layout needs a special program called Open Board View that I'll link to below. SD cards need 8 connections to operate. 2 power signals, namely ground and 3 volts, 2 control signals, namely clock and command, and 4 data signals, which are numbered 0 through 3. Technically, only data signal 0 is supposed to be required, but I found I had to solder all 4 data lines to get it to communicate, and in any case it makes copying files much faster. Looking at the schematic gives us the net names for the signals, which can then be searched for in the board viewer to see where else, if anywhere, they appear on the board. Luckily, all of the signals we need appear on various via holes and test points. The signal lines will be simple enough, but the power lines require some extra thought. Firstly, the eMMC chip has 2 power rails, so we'll need to run 2 wires in addition to the ground. Secondly, SD card readers run at 3.3 volts, whereas the eMMC's logic runs at 1.8 volts on this motherboard. eMMC chips will happily run at 3.3 volts, but I don't want to fry any other components on the 1.8 volt rail just in case the recovery doesn't work and I need to recover the data some other way. Looking at the schematic, the eMMC's 3 volt and 1.8 volt rails are connected via resistors R19 and R26 respectively, so if we remove them, it will isolate the eMMC power pins from the rest of the motherboard. One final thing to consider is the eMMC's reset pin, which has to be held at logic high for the chip to function. This is normally achieved using this pull-up resistor to the 1.8 volt rail, but as the 1.8 volt rail has been isolated, the reset pin will have to be manually wired into the 3.3 volt rail. Anyway, let's get started. First, let's isolate the power rails. I think this motherboard is a slightly different revision to the one in the board file since it doesn't have R19 or R26, and instead has a track on the top layer where it used to be. So instead of removing the resistors where you have to carefully cut the tracks using a knife, then check with a meter that the rails really are isolated. The points to solder to are fairly small, so we'll need some small wire. I used this 0.25mm Kynar coated wire, which is ideal for applications like this. I also put a fine tip on my soldering iron. After cutting each length of wire, stripping it and tinning it with solder, we have to find each signal in the board view and find an appropriate place to solder onto. Then it's just a case of soldering the wire to the board. Once all the wires have been soldered, it's a good idea to secure them with some tape. In this case, I'm using a cheap knockoff of Captain tape. So, Crapton tape, if you will. Now we need an SD card reader, such as this one I bought for £1 from Poundland. I can't be bothered building an adapter or anything, and I don't care about destroying the SD card reader, so I'm just going to desolder the SD card slot and solder the wires straight onto its circuit board. Rather than desolder the whole slot at once, I just cut the plastic enclosure off and desoldered each pin individually. It seemed to work well. Now, just to keep everything together and to avoid stressing the wires, we'll tape the card reader and the motherboard to a piece of cardboard. Then, referring to the board view software and a googled pinout diagram of an SD card, we just solder each wire to its appropriate pad on the card reader. The ground connection needs to be particularly good, so I'm using a thicker wire for that and soldering it to a large empty pad on the motherboard. There are 2 ground connections on the SD card end, but only one is needed so it can be connected to either. Once all the signals are soldered, it's simply a case of plugging the card reader into a USB port and firing up some disk copying software. I'm using the Clonezilla Linux Live CD because I want to make a reasonably exact copy, and that can be a bit of a pain to do in Windows. Anyway, the recovered files work perfectly, the whole thing cost less than £5 instead of the several hundred a professional data recovery would cost, and Debbie's cooking me a roast dinner to say thanks, so it was well worth the effort. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I hope this video will be of some use to people who have basic soldering skills, want to recover some lost data, and don't want to spend a huge amount of money.